He kept fixating on the supposed suitcase video. They debunked the president's obsession. There is no suitcase. Donahue made it clear. The suitcase is an official lockbox filled with genuine votes. The election workers simply did not scan ballots for former Vice President Biden multiple times. All of this was recorded by security cameras. And then, oh my God, he sounds just like my mom. You guys must not be following the internet the way that I do, the president remarked. The president pushed the claim that Pennsylvania reported 205,000 more votes than there were voters in the state. We'll look at whether we have more ballots in Pennsylvania than registered voters. Acting Attorney General Rosen replied, according to Donahue, they should be able to check that out quickly. The DOJ can't and won't snap its fingers and change the outcome of the election. It doesn't work that way. I don't expect you to do that, President Trump responded. Just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman. Bruh. Donahue explained that this is an exact quote from the president. We have an obligation to tell people that this is an illegal, corrupt election. President Trump told the team. Hold on, that's just such a good fucking quote. Is there like a full deposition or a full statement? I'll look at that. Leave it to us. Leave it to us. We got it, guys. Fuck, hold on. I want to find this Oval Office showdown. It's such good drama. It's such a good fucking meme, dude. When President Trump made those demands on the 27th, it was already crystal clear that the DOJ, so he's demanding that they send out fake letters, basically, right? It was already crystal clear that the Department of Justice had found no evidence of systemic fraud. The department simply had no reason to assert that the 2020 presidential contest was an illegal, corrupt election. People tell me Jeff Clark is great and that I should put him in, President Trump said on the call. People want me to replace the DOJ leadership. Donahue responded, Sir, that's fine. You should have the leadership you want. But understand, changing the leadership in the department won't change anything. The president didn't really care what facts had been uncovered by the DOJ. President Trump just wanted the department to say the election was corrupt so that he and the Republican... Okay, this is kind of opinion, but yeah. Well, I mean, obviously I didn't say it's true, but... And then Scott Perry calls Donahue. There's no reason to think that a special counsel was warranted. Representative Perry and other congressmen advocated for one to be appointed anyway. Wait, what is this? Oh, he wanted a special counsel to investigate irregularities in the 2020 election. Why would you even need a special counsel for that? Wait, what? For what? Representative Perry emailed Donahue another set of documents alleging significant voter fraud had occurred in Pennsylvania. Another one of the 205,000 more votes claim. As soon as Brady discovered... email to Scott Brady, who was the U.S. attorney for the Western District of Pennsylvania at the time. As Brady soon discovered, there was no discrepancy. President Trump's supporters came up with a claim by comparing the Pennsylvania Secretary of State's website, which reported the total number of votes at 5.25 million, to a separate state election registry, which showed only 5 million votes cast. The problem was simple. Pennsylvania's election site had not been updated. Totals for 4 counties had not yet been reported on the election site. So this is the Act 70... No, wait. I'm sorry. That was not related to this case. But this is another claim that I think we talked about like 3 or 4 hours ago. Once those votes were counted on the site, the totals matched. This was simply not an example of fraud, as President Trump, Representative Perry, and others would have it. Oh, okay, hold on. I think this might be it. Or I just made it up. Maybe there was no drama. Maybe I just imagined it in my head because I wanted it to be dramatic. Because drama is epic. On December 28th, 2020, Clark sent a 5-page, the coffee boy, okay, this is your DOJ coffee boy, sent a 5-page draft letter to Donahue and Rosen. This is your boss 2 and boss 1 of your Department of Justice, your Attorney General, your Deputy Attorney General, but they're acting. They're not confirmed by the Senate yet. They're just kind of like temps, basically. The letter was addressed to 3 Georgia state officials: Governor Brian Kemp, Speaker of the House David Ralston, and President pro tempore of the Senate Butch Miller. It contained places for Rosen and Donahue to affix their signatures, which they steadfastly refused to do. Why the fuck is Clark, the head of like the fucking environmental dick suck machines, why is he sending this letter to the acting AG and deputy AG? It's fucking hilarious. The letter, if signed and sent, may very well have provoked a constitutional crisis. The letter was attached to an email from Clark in which he requested authorization to attend a classified briefing by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, led by DNI Ratcliffe, on foreign election interference issues. ODNI did not find any foreign interference in the voting process or counting, but Clark apparently believed some of the conspiracy theories that had been floated. Specifically, Clark claimed that hackers have evidence in the public domain that a Dominion machine accessed the internet through a smart thermostat with a net connection trail leading back to China. Clark added, ODNI may have additional classified evidence. This crackpot claim had been shared by other Trump officials and associates as well. Ultimately, after Clark received the ODNI briefing, he acknowledged to Donahue that there was nothing in the briefing that would have supported his earlier suspicion about foreign involvement. Clark intended to send the letter to officials in Georgia and several other contested states that President Trump needed to flip if he was going to overturn the election results. The Department of Justice is investigating various irregularities in the 2020 election for President of the United States, Clark wrote. This is a lie, by the way. This is, by the way, okay. Sorry, hold on. I need you to understand something, okay? Okay? We only know this, okay, because we've wasted all of our fucking life, okay? All of our fucking life dealing with this shit, okay? Donald Trump pressuring through Clark, through Perry, through Jim Jordan, pressuring these people to force the DOJ to send out fake letters. Every single thing that we're reading now, all of these things have been declared by Roberts as being warranted of having absolute immunity. You cannot probe in any of these actions, so none of this is illegal, absolutely, and none of this can be used in the furtherance of any other crime. That's what we're talking about right now. When Roberts said, certain allegations, such as those involving Trump's discussions with the acting attorney general, are readily categorized in light of the nature of the president's official relationship to the office held by that individual. Other allegations, such as those involving Trump's interactions with the vice president, state officials, and certain private parties, and his comments to the general public, present more difficult questions. Okay? Because the president cannot be prosecuted for conduct within his exclusive constitutional authority, Trump is absolutely immune from prosecution for the alleged conduct involving his discussions with Justice Department officials, okay? And the rationale that Roberts gives is that, listen, okay? Because we're not having a factual disagreement here. It's not a factual disagreement. This is an interpretation of law. They're not saying, well, did Trump even really have those conversations? They're saying it doesn't matter. The government does not dispute that the indictments, now when they say the government here, they're talking about the government pressing charges, the federal government, right? Jack Smith. The government does not dispute that the indictment's allegations regarding the Justice Department involve Trump's use of official power. The allegations, in fact, plainly implicate Trump's conclusive and preclusive authority. The executive branch has exclusive authority and absolute discretion to decide which crimes to investigate and prosecute, including with respect to allegations of election crime. And the president's management of the executive branch requires him to have unrestricted power to remove the most important of his subordinates, such as the attorney general, and their most important duties. The indictment's allegations that the requested investigations were shams or proposed for an improper purpose do not divest the president of exclusive authority over the investigative or the prosecutorial function of the Justice Department and its officials. Because of that, he is absolutely immune. So just be aware of that. As we read this, that's what Roberts is talking about. This is why I get so mad when people say that, like, oh, well, when you say, oh, so can the president order a hit on somebody and have them assassinated? And somebody goes, actually, no, it's not in the president's official powers to assassinate people. Oh, is it in his official powers to direct the DOJ to send false letters to states to win the election? That's not in his official powers, is it? But anyway, so just so you know, this is all that is now untouchable. This has all been stripped from the case, okay? And all of this activity is absolutely fucking criminal, all right? Clark intended to send the letter to officials in Georgia and several other contested states to basically for this lie. Clark continued, the department will update you as we are able on investigatory progress, but at this time we have identified significant concerns that may have impacted the outcome of the election in multiple states, including the state of Georgia. Clark continued by arguing that Georgia's state legislature should call a special session. In light of these developments, the department recommends that the Georgia General Assembly should convene in special session so that its legislators are in a special position to take additional testimony, receive new evidence, and deliberate on the matter consistent with its duties under the U.S. Constitution, Clark wrote. Clark referenced the fake electors that the president and his campaign organized and argued that there were two competing slates of electors, both of which were legitimate. There's that pesky slate of electors again. Crazy. The department believes that in Georgia and several other states, both a slate of electors supporting Joseph R. Biden Jr. and a separate slate of electors supporting Donald J. Trump gathered on December 14, 2020 at the proper location to cast their ballots, and that both sets of these ballots have been transmitted to Washington, D.C. to be opened by Vice President Pence, Clark wrote. The letter was a lie. Senior DOJ officials, Barr, Rosen, and Donahue, had repeatedly stated the opposite. They found no evidence of fraud that would have impacted the election's results, none. Giuliani attempted to execute its dual-track strategy by both filing lawsuits and convincing state legislatures, blah, blah, blah. So the president and those around him sought to use the hefty imprimatur of the U.S. Department of Justice to achieve the same thing. No doubt, a letter coming from the Department of Justice is different from a meandering call from Giuliani or one of his associates. And because it was December 28th, and there was a little more than a week until the January 6th joint session of Congress, President Trump needed more and soon. Clark's letter, which laid out a plan that was most identical to what President Trump and his team had pressured state officials to carry out virtually since Election Day, could have been just what President Trump needed. Okay, hold on. When Giuliani was asked during his select committee deposition whether he remembered discussing DOJ issuing a letter like Clark's, Giuliani refused to answer because it implicated attorney-client privilege with President Trump. I like how, bro, if we just do like criminal conspiracies, but we're like all lawyers, does that mean like none of us have to testify to anything? But when asked to be recalled ever recommending that Clark be given election-related responsibilities at the DOJ, Giuliani said, I do recall saying to people that somebody should be put in charge of the Justice Department who isn't frightened of what's going to be done to their reputation because the Justice Department was filled with people like that. And the investigation also revealed that Clark and John Eastman, the guy that authored the memo, right, were in communication throughout this period. Who the fuck was this guy? I don't even remember this name. One person who had worked with Eastman and others in his circle was a lawyer installed to work with Clark at the Department of Justice in mid-December, the final weeks of the Trump administration, named Ken Klukowski. Klukowski was a Trump administration political appointee serving as a senior counsel under Clark in the DOJ Civil Division. After serving as a lawyer in the Office of Management and Budget for more than a year and volunteering as a lawyer for the Trump campaign after Election Day, Klukowski only joined the department when the administration's personnel staff expedited his appointment because the White House's Presidential Personnel Office wanted him in soon. On the morning of December 28th, Clark asked Klukowski to draft the Georgia letter for him. He dictated the substantive key points of the letter to Klukowski, told him exactly what to include. And then after that, he sent the letter to Clark. which Clark sent along to Rosen and Donahue. Donahue quickly responded to Clark's email stating, "There is no chance that I would sign this letter or anything remotely like this." Fuck, do they have these emails? Somebody should go look this up. The annotation on 211. The plan set forth by Clark was, quote, "not even within the realm of possibility," end quote. Donahue warned that if they sent Clark's letter, it would be a grave step for the department to take, and it could have tremendous constitutional, political, and social ramifications for the country. Contrary to President Trump's and Clark's wild claims about the election, Donahue stressed that the DOJ's ongoing investigations related to matters of such a small scale that they simply would not impact the outcome of the presidential election. Clark's assertion to the contrary was baseless. Donahue and Rosen reaffirmed their opposition to the draft letter. Under questioning by Rosen and Donahue, Clark eventually also revealed that he'd been in a meeting in the Oval Office with President Trump. Donahue demanded to know, why the hell are we hearing your name from the President of the United States and a congressman? When Clark was reminded that meeting the president without authorization or informing his superiors was a clear violation of the White House contacts policy, he retorted, "It's a policy. There's a lot more at stake here than a policy." In fact, the contacts policy was designed for situations just like this, where political figures might try to influence criminal investigations or legal actions taken by the Department of Justice, as President Trump was attempting to do. Email. Actually, fuck it. Come over here. What the fuck is this? Secure.winred.com. The Election Defense Fund. Wait, this is not the right thing. Did you link the wrong thing? It's in backwards order. Yeah, but this isn't the letter he was asking them to sign, right? Giuliani believes that he has legal defenses to this complaint. It's desirous to avoid unnecessary expenses in litigating what he believes to be unnecessary disputes. So this is so he receives a summons, and this is his response. Nolo contendere stipulation. It is hereby stipulated, solely for the purposes of this litigation, that defendant Giuliani, for the purpose of deciding this case on the legal status or legal issues, and recognizing that all other defendants previously identified in the complaint have resolved their claims with all plaintiffs. So this is for the Ruby Freeman case. He concedes solely for purposes of this litigation before the court and on appeal that defendant Giuliani made the statements of and concerning plaintiffs, which include all the statements detailed in plaintiff's amended complaint. And he does not dispute for purposes of this litigation that the statements carry meaning that is defamatory per se. For the purpose of this litigation only, published those statements to third parties. So he did say these things. He acknowledges that they are defamatory. He doesn't contest that to the extent that the statements were statements of fact and otherwise actionable, such actionable factual statements were false. This stipulation, however, okay, this does not affect Giuliani's ability to seek set-off, offset, or settlement credit, or his argument that his statements are constitutionally protected statements or opinions, or any applicable statute of limitations, or that Giuliani's statements, in fact, cause plaintiffs any damages, and the amount of any alleged damages which Giuliani's statements may have caused, or any other legal defense not expressly waived by this stipulation. And he does not contest solely for purpose of litigation, including any appeal on this, blah, blah, blah. That he didn't... stipulation does not affect Giuliani's ability to seek... Okay. I might have lied. Okay. However, that is my right. That is my God-given right. God damn it. Fuck, that's such a good fucking meme. That's going in here too. We have to work that in. That's got to get worked in somewhere. Sorry. Okay, back to this. We will find the dramatic meaning. I want to relive the moment now. Fuck. December 29th meeting. The next day, Rosen, Donahue, and Engel had a meeting with Mark Meadows, Pat Cipollone, and Cipolloni's deputy, Pat Philbin, in the White House Chief of Staff's office. While the meeting dealt primarily with the presidential transition, the group discussed a draft civil complaint modeled after Texas v. Pennsylvania that the president wanted the DOJ to file, challenging the results of the presidential election, tentatively called U.S. v. Pennsylvania. The DOJ officials said that they had not had time to thoroughly review the proposed suit, but initially indicated that it appeared to be flawed and did not seem viable for the DOJ to file. Meadows suggested that the DOJ leadership meet with William Olson and Kurt Olson, the two attorneys affiliated with the Trump campaign that had been working on the proposed suit, and added that Eastman and a retired judge from North Carolina named Mark Martin both had views about the lawsuit. Can you imagine? What are Donahue and Rosen's background? Imagine that you've worked your life and you've hit these positions where you're serving these pretty prestigiously high up positions in the White House. And the president's like, okay, listen, all right? I got a guy, my lawyer, okay? Fuck you fucking retards. I got a guy who looked over this, all right? And he says this shit is sick, okay? I just need the DOJ letterhead on it, okay? We're going to file suit. It's going to be fucking based, okay? It's going to be based, all right? This guy looks like he's AI. Holy shit. I've never seen a more AI-looking motherfucker in my life. The link is not correct on the J6 report. Oh, because it's labeled wrong. Here's the... From Richard Donahue. Okay, hold on. From Jeffrey Clark. Jeff and Rich, I would like to have your authorization to get a classified briefing tomorrow from ODNI, led by DNI Radcliffe, on foreign election interference issues. I can then assess how that relates to activating the IEEPA and the 2018 executive order powers on such matters, now twice renewed by the president, by the way. If you had not seen it, white hat hackers have evidence in the public domain that a Dominion machine accessed the internet through a smart thermostat with a net connection trail leading back to China. ODNI may have additional classified evidence. Okay, that's this. Attached is a draft letter concerning the broader topic of election irregularities of any kind. The concept is to send it to the governor, speaker, and president pro tem of each relevant state to indicate that in light of time urgency and sworn evidence of election irregularities presented to courts and to legislative committees, the legislatures thereof should each assemble and make a decision about elector appointment in light of their deliberations. I set it up for signature by the three of us. I think that we should get it out as soon as possible. Personally, I see no valid downsides to sending out the letter. we do a little lying. I put it together quickly, and I would want to do a formal site check before sending it, but I don't think we should let unnecessary moss grow on this. Who is this guy? Is like a what was he again? What was his position? You're talking to the acting attorney general, the top of the DOJ, and then the guy right beneath him. They're acting. They're not going to send it confirmed, but this is the head of the DOJ, and then the guy right beneath him. And you're like, we're going to go ahead and send this letter out. I just need you two dipshits to sign it for me, okay? As a small matter, I left open me signing as the Assistant Attorney General of the Civil fucking Environmental whatever after an order from Jeff as acting Attorney General designating me as an actual acting Attorney General of Civil under the Ted Olson OLC opinion, and thus freeing up the acting AAG spot in ENRD for John Brightbill to assume. But that is a comparatively small matter. I wouldn't want to hold up the letter for that. But I continue to think that there's no downside with this view's 23 days left in the president's term to give John and I that added boost in DOJ titles. Jesus Christ. Can we just get like some promotions going here before we sign this shit? Because it's going to look like way more based. Okay? It's going to look way more based. Also, by the way, I have a 5 p.m. internal call with, is this Sydney Powell? OASG plus ENRD, Toyota team, SDNY. No, this is probably Southern District of New York. These are probably courts or something, I guess, maybe. Plus OA, the Office of something something and the Environmental something. I bet this is something like that. Toyota team, and I'm trying to settle that before January 20th, maybe 120. But I'm free to talk on either or both of these subjects circa 6 p.m. plus. Or if you want to reach me after I reset work, venue to home, my cell phone is here. Jeff, I have only had a few moments to review the draft letter, and obviously there was a lot raised there that would have to be thoroughly researched and discussed. That said, there is no chance that I would sign this letter or anything remotely like this. While it may be true that the department is investigating various irregularities in the 2020 election for president, something we typically would not state publicly, the investigations that I am aware of, and who am I except for the fucking deputy, the second in command of the fucking Department of Justice, the investigations that I am aware of relate to suspicions of misconduct that are on such a small scale they simply would not affect or impact the outcome of the presidential election. Attorney General Barr made that clear to the public only last week, and I'm not aware of intervening developments that would change that conclusion. Thus, I know of nothing that would support the statement we have identified significant concerns that may have impacted the outcome of the election in multiple states. While we are always prepared to receive complaints and allegations relating to election fraud, and we will investigate them as appropriate, we simply do not currently have a basis to make such a statement. Despite dramatic claims to the contrary, we have not seen the type of fraud that calls into question the reported and certified results of the election. Also, the commitment that the department will update you as we are able on investigatory progress is dubious, as we do not typically update non-law enforcement personnel on the progress of any investigations. More importantly, I do not think the department's role should include making recommendations to a state legislature about how they should meet their constitutional obligation to appoint electors. Pursuant to the Electors Clause, the state of Georgia and every other state has prescribed the legal process through which they select their electors. While those processes include the possibility that election results may fail to make a choice, it is for the individual state to figure out how to address that situation should it arise. But as I note above, there is no reason to conclude that any state is currently in a situation in which the election has failed to produce a choice. Oh, he even has this. Despite the reference to the 1960 Hawaii situation and other historical anomalies such as the 1876 election, I believe this would be utterly without precedent. Even if I'm incorrect about this would be a grave step for the department to take, and would have tremendous constitutional, political, and social ramifications for the country. Obviously, OLC would have to be involved in such a discussion. That's the Office of Legal Counsel to make sure that they're not doing dumb shit. Jeffrey, 2. Rich, thanks for responding to this earlier. I confirmed again today that I am not prepared to sign such a letter. Jeff. Page 44. What is this? Hold on. Wait, no, hold on. I don't have time to go through every fucking thing, okay? Oh my god, it's a deposition. Oh shit, I do have time. We'll read a little bit. Fuck. I feel like depositions are like the big memes. You're not in a cucked courtroom all day. It's more relaxed. Still under oath, though. I love under oath conversations. You know why? Because there's accountability. Destiny, who's the guy sending these emails to the DOJ people? The Don't Let Moss Grow guy? It's Clark. He's just a guy that Trump likes in the DOJ that Trump's been talking to. Basically, Trump is like, okay. Here you've got, okay, you've got Big Meanie 1 and Big Meanie 2, okay? These are your cuckolded department heads, your attorney general and your deputy attorney general, okay? Now you're the president, okay? Now you've got all these stupid fucking states, well, really just 7 of them, okay? You've got 7 states here, and you need them to fucking stop they need to change their elections, okay? They need to change their vote, all right? You've already hooked them up with 7 bullshit slates of electors. We just need to get them to pick those, okay? Well, okay, here's the plan. Okay, let's not here's the plan, okay? Let's go talk to our AG and our acting AG, and let's say, listen, can you guys just send letters to the 7 states and say, guys, we found some crazy shit. You should probably like just authorize the second slate of electors in all your states. Just authorize them, okay? And then the head cucks look at Trump and they're like, no, there's literally no reason to say this. We're not just gonna make shit up. And then Trump's like, okay. Then Trump disappears, but not before saying, there's a guy that works in the DOJ. I think his name is Clark. He seems like a cool dude. I wonder if he's got the balls to do what it takes. And then Trump leaves. And now these guys are like, okay, why the fuck does Donald Trump, okay, who doesn't know, he probably doesn't even know the 3 branches of government. Why the fuck does Donald Trump know the fucking agency head or the head of the environmental fucking council subcommittee, whatever the fuck of the DOJ? So then they go and they talk to Clark, and Clark, okay, who's like a coffee boy in the DOJ. They're like, why the fuck is Donald Trump bringing you up? And Clark's like, well, I don't know. Maybe Donald Trump just needs a brave guy to get the job done, okay? And like, this is like violating policy. Like, you're not allowed to do this, right? Like, he has to go through us. He can't just talk to you fucking retard. And he's like, actually, you're both the retards because this is more important than policy. This is about saving our country. And they're like, okay. So Clark and Trump have conversations, and Trump's like, you know what? You seem like a cool guy, Clark. You know what? Actually, I'm going to hook you up with a friend of mine, okay? I got a Rick Perry over here, and I think a Giuliani over here. They're going to talk to you. And then they talk to Clark. And you know what, Clark? You're a brave dude. You need to do something about the DOJ. You got to send letters. You got to tell these states that the election is bullshit, okay? You've got to save the country. You have to save. We're facing oblivion. It's up to you, Clark. And then Clark is like, holy shit, you're fucking right, okay? So then Clark's like, I got an idea, okay? So Clark, okay, he gets some help with some other bullshit dude. He writes this letter, and he's like, okay, I got the letter. It's going to say there's huge voter fraud, all right? We found it, all right? We just need a little bit more time to prove it, okay? So he writes this whole letter, and then Clark goes back up to the bosses and like, hello, why are you talking to us again? And he's like, listen, I got a sick thing, okay? Here's a letter. Can you promote me and this other dude so that we're like more based on our titles? And then I need you guys to sign this letter, and then we're good. And then obviously these two look at the letter and like, okay, well, this is saying a bunch of like bullshit and lies. So why the fuck would we sign this letter? We're not going to fucking sign this letter. It's completely fucking fake. And then that's where we're at in the story. Why was I linked this? Page 44, somebody said. Who is this between? Select committee interview of Eric Hirschman. Fuck, who is this guy again? He's another attorney. Was he one of the crazy outside attorneys? Or was he like actually like White House staff? Senior advisor to the president. Okay. This is an actual position, right? Sorry, hold on. Where was I? Okay, wait. Wait, this is spoilers. I think this is skipping ahead a little bit. Okay. But anyway, that's what this email was. Okay, sorry. Fuck. Okay, so they're having a meeting on the 29th of December, okay? We've got Rosen, Donahue, and Engel. Let's see. Is Engel somebody with the DOJ, right? I think. He was Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Counsel, okay? Anytime the executive branch wants to do anything, if Obama wants to drone strike somebody, if the president wants to go fuck somebody, generally you always run down to the Office of Legal Counsel and you check with them. You're like, hey, listen, I'm like the president. I want to do a thing. Is this legal or is my Supreme Court about to fuck me on this? And the Office of Legal Counsel will review what you're going to do. They cite prior case law. You know, they look at shit like, yeah, that's probably good. Or I probably shouldn't do this. You probably should do this a little bit differently, right? That's what the OLC is for, Office of Legal Counsel, okay? Didn't seem viable. Okay. Mark Meadows suggests the DOJ leadership meet with William Olson and Kurt Olson, the two attorneys. Oh, the two ran. Okay. In this meeting, Mark Meadows also raised a new and outrageous allegation of election fraud, that an Italian company had been involved in changing votes in the presidential election. According to Meadows, there was a man whom Donahue later learned was in an Italian prison who claimed to have information supporting the allegation, and that CIA officers stationed in Rome were either aware of the plot to interfere in the election or had participated in it. Donahue described how it was apparent that Meadows was not clear on the specifics of the allegation, but passed them along to DOJ to investigate nonetheless. Following the meeting, Donahue provided the information to the FBI, which quickly determined the allegation was not credible. Meadows and other senior officials in the Trump administration, however, pressed the DOJ to investigate every allegation of fraud, regardless of how absurd or specious. The days after the December 29th meeting with Meadows, the senior DOJ officials more closely examined the proposed U.S. v. Pennsylvania lawsuit and determined the DOJ could not file it. Engel was principally tasked with examining the veracity of the suit and summarized his analysis in a series of talking points he provided to Donahue on December 31st. He concluded that for multiple reasons, the proposed lawsuit lacked merit. First, the U.S. government didn't have standing to challenge how a state administered its election. Such a challenge could only be brought by President Trump as a candidate in his campaign or possibly an aggrieved electoral college elector. Second, there was no identified precedent in the history of the Supreme Court establishing that such a lawsuit could be filed by the U.S. government. Third, by late December, the states had already certified the results of their elections, and the Electoral College had met, so suing states by this point would not impact the results of the election. Finally, unlike Texas v. Pennsylvania, which was one state suing another, the lawsuit would not automatically be heard by the Supreme Court, so it should have been filed in a federal district court months prior, if at all, to have any possibility of impacting the outcome of the election. When asked about it during his interview with the Select Committee, Engel described the U.S. v. Pennsylvania as a meritless lawsuit and said there was never a question about whether the department was going to file it. Okay. Rosen and Trump have a call about it. What, is it December 31st? Is this when the... Okay, we're just reading all of it. I'm sorry, it's just so fucking, it's so memey, okay? On December 31st, 2020, President Trump suddenly returned to Washington, D.C. from Florida, where he'd been celebrating Christmas, probably preparing a room for his new secret documents that were going to be coming in a few weeks. Shortly after Air Force One landed, Rosen and Donahue were summoned to the Oval Office once again. They met with the president that afternoon. President Trump was a little more agitated than he had been in the meeting on the 15th, according to Donahue. The president remained adamant that the election had been stolen, that he won, and that the American people were being harmed by fraud, and that he believed the Justice Department should be doing something about it. The president once again raised the prospect of naming Clark the acting attorney general. Keep in mind that Clark is like barely even, not to sound mean or whatever, he's like barely even like a real lawyer, okay? He has no experience, I don't think, in any sort of like investigation, like no criminal, anything. He's just... He clerked in the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Sixth Circuit, and then he served as the Deputy Assistant Attorney General for the Environment and Natural Resources Division of the Justice Department. Did stuff with the EPA. In Trump's administration, he was nominated to become, again, for the it was the U.S. The Assistant Attorney General for the Environment and Natural Resources Division. But okay, so just that's so Trump is like, by the way, this guy, maybe we should make him, maybe he's the man enough to do what needs to be done. Okay. The president once again raised the prospect of naming Clark the acting attorney general. Donahue and Rosen repeated what they had told the president previously, that he should have the leaders that he wanted, but it's really not going to change anything. Trump again asked why the DOJ would not file a complaint with the Supreme Court, alleging that the election was fraudulent. I don't even know if Trump knows what the fuck standing means. Like what? Like you can't just go to the Supreme Court and like say like, can you just like do something? Like we just want to sue somebody. It's like, you're not even allowed to. You're the federal government. Like what right do you have to sue a state about how they set their elections up? What the fuck are you talking about? You can't do this. Rosen and Donahue explained once more that the DOJ did not have standing. The DOJ represents the federal government, not the American people. President Trump was incredulous and became very animated. The president kept repeating the same questions. How is that possible? How can that possibly be? President Trump also floated the prospect of naming a special counsel, suggesting Ken Cuccinelli from the Department of Homeland Security as a possible candidate. This sounds like the kind of thing that would warrant appointment of a special counsel. Donahue recalled the president saying, the president did not order the DOJ to name a special counsel, but he was clearly still thinking about it. Donahue and Rosen didn't say a lot in response, but simply pointed out there was no evidence to support that the many individual allegations that had been made, so there was no evidence that would warrant appointing a special counsel. President Trump again raised the Antrim County, Michigan allegations. As mentioned above, bipartisan election officials in Antrim County completed a hand recount of all ballots on December 17th. That should have resolved the matter once and for all. There was simply no evidence that Dominion's machines had manipulated the result, but President Trump would not accept this reality. During the December 31st meeting, the president also raised the prospect of seizing the voting machines. Why don't you guys seize machines, he asked. You guys should seize machines because there will be evidence. Donahue recalled President Trump saying, Rosen pushed back, saying that the DOJ had no basis to seize voting machines from the states. They needed a search warrant. But there was no evidence to justify one. Rosen explained to President Trump again the DOJ had no responsibility for oversight as the states conduct the elections. Rosen added that to the extent that any federal agency is involved, it's the Department of Homeland Security, which ensures software selection and quality control. At that point, the president called Ken Cuccinelli. Donahue recalled the president saying something along the lines of, Ken, the acting attorney general is telling me it's your job to seize machines. Rosen had said nothing of the sort, but Cuccinelli quickly shot down the president's line of inquiry, making it clear that the Department of Homeland Security had no such authority. White House counsel Pat Cipollone was also in attendance and supported the DOJ leadership throughout the meeting. When Rosen spoke to Clark by phone on December 31st or January 1st, Clark revealed that he had spoken to the president again, despite previously promising Rosen and Donahue that he would inform them of any contact that he'd received from the White House. Clark told Rosen that President Trump had offered Clark the position of acting attorney general, his job, right? Yeah, the president offered me your job, yeah. And he asked him to respond by Monday, January 4th. Clark, however, said that he needed to do some due diligence related to claims of election fraud, which ones, before deciding whether he would accept the president's offer. January 2nd, Rosen and Donahue confront Clark again, okay? They find him in the hallway. On Saturday, January 2nd, Rosen and Donahue attempted once again to persuade Clark to stand down. The two reiterated that Clark should stop meeting with the president. Donahue reprimanded Clark, emphasizing that he was the boss and that Clark's ongoing contacts with the president were in violation of DOJ's White House contact policy. Clark acknowledged that he had been briefed by the ODNI, as he had requested, and that there was nothing in that briefing that would have supported his earlier suspicion about foreign involvement. Nevertheless, Clark still wanted to send his letter to Georgia and other contested states alleging voter fraud. During the conversation, Clark confirmed that President Trump had offered him the position of acting attorney general. Clark told Rosen that he would decline the offer if Rosen and Donahue signed his dishonest letter to officials in Georgia. You don't want me to have your job? Fine. I'll tell him no, but I'll only tell him no if you sign the letter that says that the election is fake, okay? If you sign the letter, I'll go back to the office of, fucking trees and leaves, and we'll be chill. The two refused once again, making it clear that there was no way we were going to sign that letter. Rosen reiterated his decision in an email on the night of January 2nd, writing, I confirmed again today that I am not prepared to sign such a letter. That same day, Trump attempted to coerce Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger into manufacturing enough votes to steal the election in the state. That call is discussed in chapter 2. That's I just need 15,000 votes or whatever he says. But one part of it deserves mention here. During that same call, President Trump brought up B.J. Pack, whom President Trump had appointed as the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. President Trump referred to Pack as, "You're never Trump or U.S. Attorney there." The implication was that Pack was not doing enough to validate Donald Trump's fictitious claims of voter fraud. President Trump's mention of Pack proved to be ominous. January 3rd, Clark tells his boss that he will take his job. You know what, Rosen? I think I am going to take your fucking job. On the 3rd, Clark informed Rosen that he had decided to accept the president's offer for his fucking job. Clark offered Rosen. Clark said, "How about this? I'll take your job. You can take Donahue's job over there, okay? Fuck him. I didn't even like him. You have Donahue's job. I'll be your boss now. How about that, okay?" Clark offered Rosen the position of his deputy. Rosen thought that Clark's offer was preposterous and nonsensical. Rosen told the select committee that there was no universe where I was going to do that, to stay on and support someone else doing things that were not consistent with what I thought should be done. Donahue believed that it was a done deal, and Clark would become the head of the DOJ. But Pat Cipollone told Rosen that it was not a done deal and that we should fight this out at the White House. The White House call logs from January 3rd show that President Trump and Clark spoke 4 times that day, starting at 6:59 a.m. The first 3 calls of the day, 2 in the morning. Wait, hold on. Somebody said, "I thought the Senate has to affirm the president's pick. How long can they be the acting attorney general for?" Who knows? The end of the Trump administration was real wacky. Who knows how long you could be acting for? But that is correct. An acting attorney general means that the president has appointed you to the role, but it's waiting for the Senate confirmation for the actual person. So they're just an acting attorney general. Yeah. The first 3 calls of the day, 2 in the morning and 1 in the early afternoon, show that the president spoke with Mr. Jeffrey Clark. The final call between the 2 of them from 4:19 to 4:22 p.m., however, shows that President Trump spoke to acting Attorney General Jeffrey Clark, suggesting that Clark had, in fact, accepted the president's offer. Holy shit. He changed his name on Discord. Wait, what the fuck? Did he give him mod? Why is his name in red? What the fuck? Acting Attorney General Rosen told the Select Committee that he would have felt comfortable being replaced by either Donahue or Engel, but he did not want the Department of Justice to be put in a posture where it would be doing things that were not consistent with the truth, were not consistent with its own appropriate role, or were not consistent with the Constitution. As a result, Rosen took 4 immediate steps to try and prevent Clark's ascension to Attorney General. First, he called Mark Meadows and asked him to set up a meeting for that evening with President Trump. So Mark Meadows is in the position of, is it not chief of staff. It's like the most senior White House staff manager guy, right? It is. It's the White House chief of staff. Okay. This is like your guy who like manages everybody. When you like tell the president, like, I need to talk to like just everybody, like this is the guy that you talk to like make anything basically happen. He's like the top of all of your, like organizing everybody that you need to talk to do anything basically, right? This is your chief of staff, your go-to dude basically. So Rosen calls Mark Meadows, and he asks him to set up a meeting for that evening with President Trump. Secondly, he spoke to Cipollone, who told Rosen that Clark's appointment was not inevitable and that he would also be at the meeting that evening to support Rosen and Donahue. Third, Rosen called Engel and asked him to come to the DOJ headquarters so that he could attend the White House meeting. And then finally, Rosen asked Donahue and another senior department attorney named Patrick Hovakimian? Hovakimian? I don't know. Hovakimian. I don't know, whatever. To convene a meeting of the rest of the department's leadership to describe the situation to them and hear how they would react to Clark's appointment. So he's setting the alarm bells, okay? Hovakimian set up a conference call. Although some of the assistant attorney generals were not able to participate in the call, all of those who agreed that they would resign if Rosen were removed from office. Pat drafted a resignation letter that read, This evening, after Acting Attorney General Jeff Rosen, over the course of the last week, repeatedly refused the president's direct instructions to utilize the Department of Justice's law enforcement powers for improper ends, the president removed Jeff from the department. Pedog, Rich Donahue, and I, Acting Attorney General, Deputy Acting Attorney General, PA, Deputy Attorney General, what is this? Whatever. Donahue, this is Donahue, our Acting Deputy Attorney General, and I resigned from the department effective immediately. Hope-A-Gimium never sent the letter because the threat of mass resignation dissuaded President Trump from replacing Rosen. Regardless, the letter stated a plain truth. President Trump was trying to use the DOJ for his own improper ends. So, okay. Fuck, I'm sorry. This is also fucking memes. January 3rd. At Rosen's request, our Attorney General, our Acting Attorney General, he asks White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows to arrange a meeting with the president at 6:15 p.m., January 3rd. We're 3 days from the certification of the vote. We should pause and reflect on the timing and purpose of the meeting. Congress was set to meet in a joint session in less than 72 hours. The states had already certified their electors. Former Vice President Biden was going to be certified as the winner of the 2020 presidential election. There was no material dispute over Biden's victory. Trump and his lawyers had not produced any evidence of significant fraud. Instead, they presented one nonsensical conspiracy theory after another. The DOJ and FBI were forced to debunk these claims, and they did. None of this stopped President Trump's effort to subvert the DOJ. Quite the opposite. The president pushed forward with a plan to install Jeffrey Clark as the acting AG, apparently to attempt to interfere with the certification of the EC vote on January 6th. It is for this reason that Rosen requested an emergency meeting on January 3rd. Before heading into the Oval Office, Rosen and Donahue discussed the possible leadership change with Cipollone and Pat Philbin. They were completely opposed to it, Donahue explained. In fact, no one who attended the Oval Office meeting supported leadership change other than Jeffrey Clark, this fucking loser coffee boy who's just tagging along, be like, I'm going to be your fucking boss, guys. By the way, I talked to Trump again. I know I'm not supposed to, but like, what are you going to do about it? Donahue didn't initially join the meeting, but the president soon called him in. During the meeting, Clark attempted to defend the last-minute move to make him the acting attorney general. Clark said that he would conduct real investigations that would, in his view, uncover widespread fraud. Clark declared that this is the last opportunity to sort of set things straight with this defective election, and that he had the intelligence, the will, and the desire to pursue these matters in the way that the president thought most appropriate. Everyone else quickly disagreed. President Trump asked Donahue and Engel, what would they do? And they both confirmed that they would resign. Donahue added that theirs would not be the only resignations. You should understand that your entire department leadership will resign, Donahue recalled saying. This included every assistant attorney general. Mr. President, these aren't bureaucratic leftovers from another administration, Donahue continued. You picked them. This is your leadership team. You sent every one of them to the Senate. You got them confirmed. Donahue argued that the president would look bad in the wake of the mass resignations. What is that going to say about you when we all walk out at the same time? Donahue recalled asking the president, and what happens if, within 48 hours, we have hundreds of resignations from your Justice Department because of your actions? What does that say about your leadership? Steve Engel reinforced Donahue's point, saying that Clark would be leading a graveyard. White House counsel Pat Cipollone threatened to resign as well, describing Clark's letter as a murder-suicide pact. Cipollone warned that the letter would damage everyone who touches it, and no one should have anything to do with it. Some of the participants in the meeting argued that Clark was the wrong person for the job of Attorney General. Clark attempted to defend his credentials, arguing that he had been involved in complicated civil and environmental litigation. That's right, you're an environmental lawyer, Donahue fired back. How about you go back to your office and we'll call you when there's an oil spill? The meeting lasted approximately 3 hours. Only toward the end of the contentious affair did President Trump decide to reverse his earlier decision to make Clark the acting assistant attorney general. Donahue recalled President Trump addressing Clark along the following lines. I appreciate your willingness to do it. I appreciate you being willing to suffer the abuse. But the reality is, you're not going to get anything done. These guys are going to quit. Everyone else is going to resign. It's going to be a disaster. The bureaucracy will eat you alive. And no matter how you want to get things done in the next few weeks, you won't be able to get it done. And it's not going to be worth the breakage. Keep in mind, hello? For the Kino cinema that this is, just remember, we will never, ever, ever get insight like this again We will never, ever, ever get insight like this again because all of this will be beyond criminal review and it will be beyond any sort of judicial inquiry, probably beyond any sort of congressional inquiry. You'll never get any information like this again. So enjoy this keynote. This is the final keynote you'll ever get, okay? Roberts has said no more. Clark tried to change President Trump's mind, saying, history is calling. This is our opportunity and we can get this done. But the president was clearly rattled by the threat of mass defections and reiterated that the change would not happen. President Trump then wondered what would happen to Clark and if Donahue was going to fire him. Donahue explained that only the president had that authority. Does he not know that the president is the one who appoints and fires like his officers or whatever, or their inferior officers, right? I think is what you call them. That was the end of the matter. We all got up and walked out of the Oval Office, Donahue recalled. But for one DOJ employee, the matter was not entirely settled. During the January 3rd meeting in the Oval Office, President Trump complained bitterly about B.J. Pack, the U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. Barr had tasked Pack with investigating the State Farm Arena video in early December 2020. Imagine that you're like given like a fucking YouTube video, okay? I need you to investigate this, okay? I need the whole... This is a 3-minute video. I need the 20-minute video, okay? Like the FBI and Georgia state officials, Pack concluded that nothing nefarious had occurred. President Trump was dissatisfied. No wonder nothing's been found in Atlanta, because the U.S. attorney there is a never-Trumper, Donahue recalled the president saying. This is Trump's own appointed judge, right? I think. Let me check. He was nominated by President Donald Trump to become the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. It was confirmed by the Senate 2017. And he gets called a never-Trumper. Yikes. Donahue objected, saying Pack had been doing his job. But the president insisted, pointing out that Pack criticized him years earlier. This guy is a never-Trumper, the president reiterated. He should have never been in my administration to begin with. How did this guy end up in my administration? The president threatened to fire Pack. Can you fire a federal judge, or do you have to impeach? I don't know, actually, for federal judges. When Donahue pointed out that Pack was already planning to resign the next day, damn, I'd be like, fuck this. Wait, did he say he was resigning because of Trump's bullshit? A Monday. Wait, when Donahue pointed out that Pack was already planning to resign the next day, a Monday, President Trump insisted that it be Pack's last day on the job. Pack later confirmed to Donahue that he would be leaving the next day. President Trump asked if those in attendance at the Oval Office meeting knew Bobby Christine, who was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Georgia. Even though Pack had a first assistant who was next in line for Pack's job upon his resignation, President Trump wanted Christine to take the role. Christine did take over for Pack, but he did not find any evidence of fraud either. It was Donahue's impression that Christine concluded that the election matters were handled appropriately. Later in the evening of January 3rd, President Trump called Donahue to pass along yet another conspiracy theory. The president had heard that an ICE agent outside of Atlanta was in custody of a truck filled with shredded ballots. Donahue explained that Immigrations and Customs Enforcement agents are part of the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, so the matter would be under that department's purview. President Trump asked Donahue to inform Ken Cuccinelli, that story, like all the others, turned out to be fiction when DOJ investigators evaluated the claim. The truck was carrying shredded ballots, but they were from a previous election. The old ballots had been shredded to make room for storing ballots for the 2020 election. Okay, wait. Okay, and then there's one more. Okay, that was one big fight, but there was another huge one with Sidney Powell and I think it was White House counsel. They like screaming at each other, right? Oh, when was this? I read this for the Alex Jones debate. I didn't use any of this. None of this. It was 845 pages. And then none of it came up with fucking dipshit Wald or Alex shit Jones. Fuck me, dude. But it's Kino. This is Kino. Fuck. Did this not happen? Was it Giuliani? Maybe Powell wasn't here. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Fuck. It was this. I think it was this. Maybe this one isn't as dramatic, but. During a meeting with Attorney General Bill Barr that day, President Trump claimed the Asog report was absolute proof that the Dominion machines were rigged, and that meant that he was going to have a second term. Barr told the Select Committee that he believed that the Asog report was very amateurish. Its authors lacked any real qualifications, and it failed to provide any supporting information for its sweeping conclusions about Dominion. Barr told President Trump that he would look into the report, but that the DOJ had already had a good idea of what happened in Antrim County, and it was human error, not a problem with the machines. In any event, Barr promised President Trump that they would have a definitive answer within a couple of days because of a hand recount being conducted. In the ensuing days, as Barr predicted, the Asog report was swiftly and soundly criticized by experts within and outside the Trump administration, including the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security. The initial analysis of election security experts at the Department of Homeland Security was that the Asog report was false and misleading and demonstrates a callous misunderstanding of the actual current voting certification process. Subsequent analyses of the Asog report and the underlying data from Antrim County were even more critical. The thorough assessments, Asog's inspector. More importantly, as Attorney General Barr had promised President Trump, within days of the release of the Asog report, a full hand recount of every ballot cast in Antrim County confirmed the results reported by the Dominion machines and refuted Asog's assertion that an algorithm has manipulated the vote count. Giuliani's chief investigator, Bernie Carrick, acknowledged that his team was not able to find any proof that a Dominion voting machine improperly switched, deleted, or injected votes during the 2020 election. President Trump was not swayed by these basic facts. The president continued to promote the Asog report, hounding the DOJ to investigate the matter further. He returned the Asog's claims during a December 27th call with Acting Attorney General Rosen and Acting Deputy Attorney General Donahue, citing the report's claimed error rate of 68% in Antrim County. Donahue pointed out that the president that the difference between the computer and hand count was only one vote, and that he cannot and should not be relying on Asog's fraudulent claim because it was simply not true. President Trump's fixation on Dominion's voting machines and the baseless theory that the machines had manipulated votes led to a concerted effort to gain access to voting machines in states where President Trump was claiming election fraud. On the evening of December 18th, Powell, General Mike Flynn, Patrick Byrne met with the president at the White House. Over several hours, they argued that President Trump had the authority under a 2018 executive order to seize voting machines, right? So this is him, I think, bringing all of his lackeys, okay? He's like, fuck the White House counsel. I'm bringing my dudes, okay? These guys are going to tell me we can fucking get this shit done, okay? Several administration officials joined the meeting and forcefully rejected this extreme proposal. Okay, there's like screaming. People are just piling in. Okay, multiple lawyers in the White House, including Eric Hirschman, Derek Lyons, and White House counsel Pat Cipollone, pushed back strongly against the idea of seizing voting machines. Cipollone told the Select Committee that it was a horrible idea, which had no legal basis, and he emphasized that he had seen no evidence of massive fraud in the election. White House advisor Eric Hirschman similarly told the Select Committee that he never saw any evidence whatsoever to sustain the allegations against Dominion. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien phoned into the December 18th meeting and was asked if he had seen any evidence of election fraud in the voting machines or foreign interference in our voting machines. O'Brien responded that his team had looked into that and there's no evidence of it. Around the same time, President Trump, Mark Meadows, and Rudy Giuliani were repeatedly asking the leadership, Department of Homeland Security, whether the agency had authority to seize voting machines, and they were repeatedly told that the DHS had no such unilateral authority. Giuliani and Powell were also engaged in efforts to access voting machines in multiple states with the assistance of sympathetic local election officials. Those efforts turned up no evidence of any voter manipulation by any Dominion machine, but President Trump continued to press this bogus claim. I think that might be what this part of the deposition was about. Did Giuliani give you any indication of why he was calling you about this? No, the phone call literally came out of the blue. I think this is Hirschman. I guess the part that's surprising to me is that he would be doing that on the morning of the 6th. Oh no, this is later on, I'm sorry. It seems pretty late to be seeking somebody's thoughts on an issue as monumental as the one you discussed with him. This is on the 6th, I'm sorry, this is later on, okay? Are you gonna include any of this in the video? Probably not, it's just too long. But it's like, it's so much, it's just so many memes. There could be like a whole play from this. Like, there's so many good memes here. It seems pretty late to be seeking somebody's thoughts on an issue as monumental as the one you discussed with him. I don't have an answer for that. I can only tell you that I remember the phone call. Do any members have questions? Okay, and then questioning. I guess before we move from Dr. Eastman, did you have any communications with Dr. Eastman either on January 6th or any time after that? I did. Can you tell us about those? Yes, it was the day after. Eastman, I don't remember why he called me, or he texted me or called me, he wanted to talk with me. And he said that he couldn't reach others, and he started to ask me about something dealing with Georgia and preserving something potentially for appeal. And I said to him, are you out of your fucking mind, right? I said, because I only want to hear 2 words coming out of your mouth from now on, orderly transition. I said, I don't want to hear any other fucking words coming out of your mouth, no matter what, other than orderly transition. Repeat those words to me. And what did he say? Eventually, he said orderly transition. I said, good, John. Now I'm going to give you the best free legal advice you've ever gotten in your life. Get a great fucking criminal defense lawyer. You're going to need it. And then I hung up on him. Do you remember anything else about the conversation? That was it. Did you have any communication with him after that? I don't believe so. Okay, and that was on the 7th. Just to double back, did you have any conversation with Dr. Eastman on the 6th? Nope, I'm sorry. There was one other thing that I told him. I'm sorry. What I told him on that call is, about him speaking at the Ellipse on that morning. And I did say to him, in a rather harsh tone, you got up there and you fucking spoke at the Ellipse at a rally? You're a law professor and you're speaking at a rally, right? What type of fucking lawyer are you? Or law professor are you? And then so that was part of the 7th. I did not speak to him on the 6th. Did you either see or hear or read Dr. Eastman's remarks from the Ellipse rally? No, I remember seeing a picture of him, I think, standing up there with a hat on. I mean, it was freezing that day, and I didn't plan on going to the Ellipse, so it was a brutally cold day. Did you end up going to the Ellipse? I did. I left. I went to the Ellipse in part of whatever motorcade or car there was, but I walked back by myself in the middle, or at some point while the president was still speaking. Why'd you end up going to the Ellipse? I thought after hearing the tone of the conversation between the president and the vice president, maybe I could be helpful in trying to temper some of the emotions that were running high. Bruh. Oh, wait, is this on the 6th? Walk us through your entire day on the 6th. Do you have any calls or interactions with anybody before you got into the office? Just with Rudy, I told you that. Okay, anybody else? I don't believe so. Do you remember roughly when you got to the office? I don't. I remember at some point. I just don't remember the times. At some point, I did a physical or a quasi-physical because someone in the White House medical team said, hey, you're the only one who hasn't done anything. So I thought at some point, I may have spoken to someone on the medical team just to give me an update of my blood test results, but I don't remember if it was that day or not. When I got in, somebody called me and said that the family and others were in the Oval, and do I want to come up? So I went upstairs. Do you remember who it was that called you? I don't. Okay, any idea why you were invited to that meeting? I don't think it was a meeting. When I got there, it seemed to be more of a social thing. That was, people were sitting around in a semicircle, the family. And so I ended up going in. It wasn't a meeting that was going on, at least when I got there. And who do you recall being in the Oval Office? Don Jr., Eric, Laura, Kimberly. I believe Meadows was there. I don't remember if Steve Miller was there or not. There was a speechwriter that was there. At some point, Ivanka came in. She may have come and left a couple times. And at some point, I didn't know. Now I know it's General Kellogg. No one ever introduced us. So all I knew him in the hallway was General. So whenever I saw him, I said, hi, General. But I didn't know who he was at all, except that he worked somewhat with the VP. That was my general understanding. And he had at least come in for a little bit, but he was not seated in any of the chairs. What do you recall from that? I know you said it's not really a meeting, that gathering, just social conversations predominantly. Okay. No Keno there. Is there any other